What's the most fricked up thing someone has ever said to you? My ex said to me, I purposefully start fights with you because I love to see you cry, or why did you believe me when I told you I love you? I don't actually mean it. She was a major psycho. C. I've decided to remove the problem, you, from my life since it's affecting me too. My friend said this to me after he found out that I got sexually assaulted by his friend. I'm sorry. I hope you have better friends now. Go get your grandfather from the woodshed. He said he has a surprise. The surprise was that he hung himself. I was 8 years old. You're adopted. You don't get to have opinions. You're going to end up like your real dad. My real dad was an alcoholic and an addict. He fricked up his life and never came back. When I was 7, my mother and stepfather were having relationship issues. After a fight in which he ended up leaving the house, my stepfather sat me down. He gave me an extremely long-winded speech about why I was a terrible bastard child. I don't remember much of it, but he ended it by saying, "It's your fault your mom and I are breaking up. You're rotten and I hate you." I don't think I'll ever forget that. What a failure of an adult. Wasn't by me, but I was there and somewhat a part of it. My stepbrother, when his latest GF were over for dinner, partway through they have a big something they want to talk about. Okay, we figure they're getting married. This would be like the third in that many years, but sure. He goes through this is the one GFS so fast I honestly stopped trying to remember their names. My stepmother is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. Nearly endless patience, and always willing to go out of her way to help people. She's lent him a lot of money in the past, and I have no idea if he ever paid her back for all his failed business ideas. I only remember instead of giving her samples he made her buy them. Anyways, so the big announcement was the most fricked up thing I've ever heard. They gave a big long speech about how far it is to drive to visit my stepmom dad, and that they wouldn't be bringing their grandkids anymore unless she gives them $15,000 to buy a new car, as they didn't feel safe anymore. Despite both of their current vehicles having enough room, being in good condition, and being able to make the drive just fine. If my father and I wanted to pitch in, that would be great too. My father had to leave the table. Pretty sure I just sat there at a loss for words, while my stepmom just paused and started talking about something else. What the frick? I would have walked away too, or I'd risk stabbing one of them with a fork. The gall. I've had leukemia a couple of times, and my then wife looked at me during an argument and said these words: "I hope this cancer eats you from the inside out, and that no one is by your side when you die." I was so stunned I just turned around and went to the bedroom and went to sleep. The next morning she literally said, "I'm sorry I said those things last night, but you know how angry you get me." I left the next day and never looked back. It was 12 years of heck with her, and I stuck through it to be around my kids, but at that moment I knew this had to be it or I'd never get out. Man, that's brutal. I hope you're doing better now. "Is that the only reason you fucking came home?" said by my mother in front of my 8th grade counselor, who had brought me home and explained to my mother that my 40-year-old stepbrother had raped me twice. I'll never forget my mother's look of disdain, or the look of utter horror on my counselor's face. My maternal grandmother told me I was the reason for my mother's death, not her untreated high blood pressure, or the stroke and aneurysm she had while smoking M. Awful. Grandmothers are supposed to be kind. She sounds horrid. I don't believe your grandfather ever was inappropriate with you. If anything, it would have happened to your prettier sister, Mom, the last time I spoke to her 3 years ago. Congratulations on going no contact. You act this way. It's no wonder your ex cheated on you and beat you. I knew you had an eating disorder, but I didn't say anything because you needed to lose the weight. Well, that's rage-inducing. Not me, but this one takes it. In high school, one of my classmates' dad died at the start of the year. All the teachers knew as he'd talked about it and been absent over it. Fast forward a few months and the kid handed in sloppy homework, as the teacher called it. Then, he made a point of, in front of class, saying your dad would be embarrassed. Kid just got up, picked up his things and walked out. Pretty sure we all universally hated that teacher after that. Holy crap. When my mom got diagnosed with stage IV cancer, my boss at the time said she was excited that I was getting to go through this. She meant it in a beaten obstacle that life throws at you kinda way. My mom passed away 2 years later and there was nothing exciting about watching her deteriorate and having to say goodbye. Who the frick says that? Toxic positivity. When I was 8, my stepdad told me I was the reason he went drinking every night, and it was my fault he beat me. A few weeks ago a guy at Rite Aid told me I looked like Robert Zedar, which I absolutely do not. I have no idea why he said that to me. Had to look that guy up. Dang, that's a rare insult but a rough one. Sorry. In college I studied journalism but I had to take a required PR class. We had to keep these journals about our thoughts about news events for some reason. And I was trying to be thought-provoking and so I wrote about this theory about why college students tend to be apathetic about the news. It had to do with the insular nature of the college campus. It was probably bulls, but I was writing about a theory I had. The professor ripped it apart and then ended his scribbling with, "I find it hard to believe you will succeed at anything, much less journalism." I went on to write for ESPN, so he can kick rocks. I had a school counselor say something similar to me. I told her I wanted to go to college. She said I was not college material and would be better doing something with my hands. 3 college degrees later I sent her a picture of me holding them and flipping her off. My ex finished our relationship after 15 years. To me it was out of the blue. 5 days later my best friend told me that you should be over it by now as I'm sobbing my heart out to her. To her I should have been able to mourn and grieve my 15-year relationship in just 5 days. Turns out he was cheating on me with her. Stop making me feel like I've been a part of something wrong. You're not worth marrying. No girl's gonna go for you. You'd expect it to come from a stranger, not your own family. It just allowed me to stay more distant from them over the years. My husband's ex-girlfriend told him that, very loudly, very cruelly and very publicly. Jokes on her. He is an amazing husband and father and I'm very grateful for him. My aunt died in a house fire and she was pagan. One of my mom's very religious co-workers said it's ironic how she died because she probably burning in heck right now. Religious extremists say the darndest things. I had a few friends over. My mom just came home totally drunk, smashed my door open and complained about me not having cleaned the apartment. Before I could reply, she said, "You son of a b." She then left my room. Was very embarrassing, haha. Nice self-burn, mom. Mom had a crappy drunk boyfriend for years when I was a kid. When they broke up he told me it was all my fault. I knew he was wrong and an butthole, but it kinda fricked with my head for a few years. A crap role model, but I kinda looked up to him and respected him for a lot of things. I saw him as an adult as I was leaving a bar with a buddy and he was entering. Remember me? I'm the kid who you blamed for your being a worthless piece of crap who couldn't maintain a relationship. He just turned around and left at the door. Frick you, Chris, you old C. All my homies hate Chris. I don't see what the big deal is. What, you're going to kick my butt because your sister puts out? From the man who sexually assaulted my sister when he was 40 and she was 13. Shows how abnormal abuser's thoughts are. I love your brother more than you. My own mom trying to justify why I was treated like crap and why my older brother got away with things. Go back to her. Give her a potted plant and tell her to carry it around everywhere she goes to replace the oxygen she wastes. Wasn't said to me but I overheard it. My friend's friend had just had her mother pass away from breast cancer. She was still crying a week later in our dorm room. This was second year of college university. It was a Saturday evening and her douchebag of a BF, we all hated him, asked her if she was over it yet so he could go drinking at local bars. Please tell me she dumped him. You'll never be good enough for anyone. Maybe it doesn't sound as bad as others, but it gets in my head and messed up my life. I found myself blaming myself for every little mistake, apologizing when I did nothing wrong and even trying too hard to be good enough for others. You're good enough for us. When my husband and I first got married, 1980, he was in graduate school and got an annual stipend of $3,500. So I was the primary breadwinner. My boss knew this. Although I didn't know it at the time, my boss regularly fired anyone in my position after a year. I lasted 2 years, but at the end of that time, she came in to give me my annual evaluation. She rated me outstanding across the board but then informed me that she was not renewing my contract. Then she patted me on the head and said, "I want you to know that it's nothing personal. If I had a daughter, I'd want her to be just like you." Somehow the head pat is the worst part. Nonsensical, I know, but that was my first reaction. My aunt blamed me for my cousin molesting me because I have big breasts and a curvy figure. She justified it because he is a man and it's my fault for being developed at a young age even though I was only 15 and a virgin. She basically said I was asking for it even though I wasn't. JFC, victims are never asking for it. If there's no consent, you're literally asking not for it. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. My mom had me before she turned 17. When we were having a very heated argument when I was 14, she said, "You ruined my chances at a future. Been dealing with depression and other mental health issues for over 20 years now. You should see my doctor's faces when I share that one. My mother used to say to me, because of you, me and your father could never have fun." Went for an appointment because I had just found out my second son was on the way. Doctor couldn't find a heartbeat, but scheduled me a follow-up later in the day to try again with different better equipment. I was upset, but I worked with utter monsters, so I knew they'd make my life even more hellish if I didn't go on into work. I got to work, sat at my desk weeping, and this horrible bee in the cubicle next to me stuck her head in and said, "Yeah, baby's probably dead and your body's gonna reabsorb it." I hear that happens sometimes. Internet hugs. My ex-boss would parade her dog around the office, despite the rules against pets on the property. One day, she approached me with her dog and said I was to avoid her office so she can finish her work. Otherwise her dog will get me because he's vicious towards blacks. Then she laughed and walked away. Just row. What a, I don't even know what to call that. All the swear words are inadequate. Dangerously unhinged individual who shouldn't be in public. In 5th grade I was sick and didn't go to school for 3 months. When I came back the class was disappointed that I recovered and for the rest of the year none of them helped me catch up with homework, tests, projects. And when I managed to pass they told me too bad. We planned not to help you so you could fail 5th grade. Kids can be so very cruel at that age. Smart enough to plot and scheme, but too young to have any empathy. But this was above and beyond. Years back, worked at a hotel that often had movie crews and some talent staying while they filmed locally. I was like a 17-year-old girl bussing tables and pouring water. These fools, guessing producers, turn to me and say, "What about you? You probably want to be famous." I stated that I always had interest in the behind the camera stuff, like camera or sound work. I was always the sound person for school plays. They laughed at me and told me I was too dumb to do that. I'm guessing because I was blonde. I think they were filming Species 2. Filming Species 2. Oof, they do not have any room to talk. Years ago, I had very politely turned down a guy who asked me to prom back in high school, and his friends hate texted me all day, saying no wonder my mom killed herself, no wonder my ex cheated on me, etc. For freaking prom, dude. This guy was in the friend group, but I had never expressed any interest and barely talked to him. Bullet dodged. We found out your mother was shaking you, so we tried to get custody. Court denied us due to lack of witnesses. My stepmother, blaming herself even into my 30s for my physically abusive mother. I thought she didn't start physically hurting me until I was a tween. Nope. My childhood reprieve was so my mother could keep me from my father. Turned everything I thought I knew about my mom upside down. One of the most fricked up I can remember was my teacher to me, 14-15 to that time, after I've told her how my boyfriend, to that time 35, and his friends repeatedly raped me and how managed a week of no contact but how I'm scared that he'll show up at school to beat me and that I don't know what to do. You better apologize and beg him to marry you. You're still young so let me tell you. No one wants a W. Then on her way out of the room leaving me there she dropped her "Be a good girl and be careful that you don't get pregnant from another guy." It kills me what some teacher get away with. Hope you got therapy and are doing okay. Huge hugs. Grown woman knows I am my children's full-time caregiver. Looks me right in the eyes and says, I think full-time dads are creepy, hurtful, disrespectful and sexist, all at the same time. What and but? My ex and I were divorcing and I asked her if she ever loved me. Her answer was, no, you treated me nice. You were kind to me and you loved me, but I didn't love you. I wasn't quite right for a very long time. I had something similar. I got the I loved you but was never in love with you spiel. To be honest, I'm probably still not quite right. You should have held her in. You shouldn't have pushed. Said to me by my mom after I lost my daughter because I went into labor too early. The contractions couldn't be stopped and I was telling her how at first I thought I was constipated so I kept pushing, then my water suddenly broke. WTF. I need you to pay rent, also said by my mom after I confided in her about how I felt. Suicidal. Moved away shortly after that. While the first one is really bad, the second one is the true nightmare. I can't imagine my own mother be so indifferent that the only reason she wanted me around was for rent. I hope you are happy now, because you deserve it. You finally got a live one. Said to me by my husband's grandfather upon meeting our newborn. We had 5 miscarriages before having her. This makes me want to cry. It's such a... I don't even know how to describe how horrible of a thing that is to say to someone. Probably you're never going to be in a prosperous relationship and it's all because of you. I realize now she just didn't want me to leave her, but it still hurts. I hope you aren't married or have kids, because you are a terrible person nobody should put up with. I refuse to cancel an €8 fine she had. Yay. Customer service. Austrian guy at college backed me into a wall screaming in my face, "You're nothing but a dirty Slav." And you know what that word means? That your people are all slaves. This was because I confronted him about abusing his girlfriend. She went back to him. He was a real dick swab. My mom has told me on several occasions that I'm dark skinned because I don't scrub hard enough in the shower. It couldn't be because we're freaking Indian, and that I actually enjoy going outdoors and being in the sun. My HR rep advised me to get an abortion when I announced my pregnancy, because it would ruin my career. What career? I was 29 years old and on the last leg of my apprenticeship as a salesperson in a goddamn record store. Told her to frick off. Went down in hours and had the baby. Never came back from maternity leave. The chain went tee up less than 6 months later. Went to a social anxiety support group. 2 incidents. 1. Greeted the facilitator. Explained a bit about myself. Had a coughing fit because I was a bit nervous. She then says you're a bit odd. 2. Was paired with an older gentleman while I was there. The thing finishes and people are saying their goodbyes. I say mine and walk away down the stairs. I then hear the older dude saying thank God she left. Was waiting for her to leave. I can't believe I paid to go to that. After I found out that my ex had stopped talking to me so it could start dating someone new, he said you were a good stepping stone to a real relationship. My high school girlfriend threatened to accuse me of raping her if I broke up with her. So I stayed with her because that was terrifying. It still scares me. Instead, over the next year I just made myself more annoying and less caring until she dumped me and I was finally relieved. Congratulations for getting rid of her, dude. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.